10 seconds. This is no April Fool's joke. Welcome to Comic Book Spectrum.
Welcome to Comic Book Spectrum, a Rising Tide Broadcast Network production. Get ready to explore the world of comics, past, present, and future, with our panelists Eric Hawkins, Brian Rodman, and Clyde Hall. And now here's your host, Brian K. Morris.
Good evening and welcome to the not February, that was almost an April Fool's joke, the April 1st, 2021 edition of Comic Book Spectrum, issue number 6. Hope you have a great April Fool's Day. Hope you didn't get fooled. But anyway, we're going to fool around for the next hour or so, talk about comics and having fun with it. We're glad you're here, whether you're watching us live or on the reruns. And we want to thank the Rising Tide Broadcast Network for powering this episode. Here's a list of what all is going on. Please take a screen capture of that. And tonight, following this show, we will have the one, the only Amy Hale on Creative as Hale, where she interviews Teresa Dunn and Rick Bradley, two fantastic authors. You'll want to see that. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern, we'll get to watch Stupid O'Clock, which is one of the most intelligent talk shows you're ever going to find. Don't want to ruin it for you, but honestly, it's a great show. You will love it, and be sure to stay tuned for the Stupid After Show when they are done. Also, we want to thank our Patreon subscribers for not a substantial, but a modest monthly fee. You can support your favorite creators. Many of these people you see on the screen right now have Kickstarter Patreon pages. Please check ours out at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. In fact, this afternoon, I uploaded a copy of my first real book, Santastein, for your reading enjoyment at the $10 per month level. So please check it out. And now, without any further hesitation, and also we want to thank Plasma Fire Graphics for sponsoring this show. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. Plasma Fire Graphics did that wonderful book trailer there. And if you want him to do something, Jeffrey Hayes, to do something like that for you, then go to plasmafiregraphics.com. Also check out their Facebook page. It is fantastic. And now we have delayed long enough. We're going to bring our August panel to us. Actually, it's our April panel. The last month they were the March panel. So anyway, here they are, the ones, the only, the panel here. Thank you, gentlemen. As always, let me get you all unmuted as we all grab our beverage of choice tonight. Yes, that's what I say, Eric. Thank you for that. Anyway, everyone's now unmuted, and hope you all are ready for an hour of fun.
Sure.
Good.
We're excited to be here on April Fool's Day.
That's right. Yes, what could possibly go wrong? We're about to spend the next 90 minutes finding out. But anyway, let's go around the room. We will start. Let's start with Clyde this week. Clyde, tell everyone who you are and why you are so amazing.
Hi, I'm Clyde Hall, and I'm a lifelong comic book fan and reader. Elder statesman of all things geekery, like vintage toys, Captain Action, cryptozoology, noir. I'm also a contributing writer at Stormgate Press and the creator of B-Man. His first short story, appeared in the now award-winning Pulp Reality #1, now available on Amazon. This week, Charles F. Milhouse and Stormgate with Pulp Reality #1 won 2 Pulp Factory Awards for Best Cover and Best Anthology of 2020. I'm also an award-winning audio drama scripter, and I'm a contributing writer and a reviewer at doomrocket.com, currently on hiatus.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Clyde, and to everyone, got to say real fast, congratulations to Charles F. Millhouse and everyone involved in Pulp Reality for their 2 awards in the Pulp Factory Awards. And I'm part of that crew. I'm part of the people on it too, and I don't know how to behave with an actual real award. And now here he is, the wonderful, the lovely, the delightful Eric S. Hawkins. Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric S. Hawkins, and Cindy said I was hat deprived, so I wouldn't grab my derby real quick, but it doesn't work well with the headphones, so I'm going to take it back off. Hey, I am a independent comic creator, and the creator of the Zombieful World of Oz. Usually I have my banner here, but I didn't put it back up after the comic show I went to over the weekend and sold a bunch of comics.
Yeah.
I was able to go to a comic show this weekend, set up, everybody wearing masks, a lot of social distancing, but there was a great crowd there, lots of people, and everybody had bags of stuff. And I went through a short box of comics myself and a bunch of commissions. So very good weekend. People seem to be starved. So if you can get to a show, get to one and try to make some money.
There you go. A totally mercenary point of view, which we totally endorse around here. Thank you, Eric. And now here he is, Mr. Subtle Sale himself, Brian Rodman. Brian, what looking so mysterious, getting his Dirk Manning on. How are you tonight?
Hello, Clarice. No, my name is Brian Rodman. I am the author and illustrator of the horror fantasy comic book series Memoirs of an Angel, also soon to be the Nebulizer, launching on Kickstarter in May. I am also 1/3 of the Dastardly Dingoes podcast on YouTube, and I am happy to be here. How are you?
We're happy that you're here too, my friend. And I'm Brian K. Morris, the ringleader of this motley crew here. And I'm also part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, as well as the chief set of hands at Rising Tide Publications. Please check out our website. And also, I am an independent publisher of books and comic books, also a freelance hybrid author, a Facebook famous YouTuber, award-winning playwright, now part of the group on here that I have a real award, and I'm totally lost as how to behave now, and also former mortician's assistant. I've been reading comics since I was at least 3 years old, learned to read with them, and I've got a whole bunch of them, and that's why I like doing this show, because it gives me an excuse to go back and read some of them. So anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for introducing yourselves. And what say we start out as usual with a review of the recently released, as Eric goes back to his traditional headgear there.
I just love it. Every time we see Eric, there's something different with his head. I think we should keep it going.
There's something different with Eric's head to begin with. So
It's true.
and now he's invisible. The visual delight that is Eric Hawkins.
Indeed. The next time he comes back on, he'll have hair.
Oh, no, that will never happen. The hair is gone. The hair is gone for good.
Clyde?
He's full on Droog. He's full on Alex the Droog with steampunk. And then he was the Flashpoint. And now he's Professor Zoom. What the heck?
Oh, there we go. Now he's the Punisher.
Two can play this game.
Alas. I don't have any hats near me other than what I have on my head. Aha! Aha!
There we go.
Wait, who is that man down there? Oh, and welcome to Never Mind the Furthermore. I'm your host, Christian Basil, and you can find me on YouPorn. Anyway, And anyway, we want to thank our audience who is inexplicably still here. Anyway, yes, you're first in our hearts and first in the chat tonight. I don't know how. Hello, Cindy Captain. Good morning on another part of the planet. Greetings, programs from Brian Hawkins. Good to see you as always, sir. And oh no, Eric is half deprived. It's like West Side Story. We're depraved on account we're deprived. And Luke Stone, good to see you, sir. Hope you're having a great evening. Hybrids, the sons of gods. Great news coming up with that soon. And John B. Pica, hey there, friends and foes. John B. Pica, good to see you. JohnPica.com. Check for that. And yay for hats. Thank goodness, or else my head would get cold, or I'd burn out my camera. And woot, it will look like J.J. Abrams is doing a relaunch of Nevermind the Furthermore. And yay for everyone. And Amy Hale, mwah, good evening to you, darling. And good luck with your show tonight. Remember, Creative as Hale is on at 8 p.m. tonight. And if you abandon us for her, we will all understand. Carl Wilson says, Clyde, is that a Gizmonics Institute hard hat?
It is, and it actually is in my review tonight. I hadn't thought about it, but that's why I threw it on there.
Good eye there, Carl. Yay, embracing your geek side like and kissing it on the lips. So tell you what, since Clyde is all prepped up there, Clyde, why don't you start us out on this week's review of current comics. Now we say current, but the intent of these reviews that we are giving and have for the last few weeks have been all books that you should be able to get at your comic book store right now. They might have to order it through Diamond, or you should be able to get it through either Comixology or Hoopla, or even a reasonably priced one on eBay. But whatever it is, it's been released within the last month. So Clyde, now that I've set everything up and you have that handsome headgear there, why don't you tell us what you're reviewing this week, sir?
All right. I'm really excited because this is it is an Aftershock title. They've been really doing the books that I've enjoyed the most lately, but it's quite different than anything else that they've done in a while. So this, my friends, is The Maniac of New York. Now, as you can see, this is issue number 2, and look at the coloration, because it plays a part. Most of the book is colored like this. It's a very light coloring. And I think I figured out the reason for it. It kind of threw me off at first because the rest of the book is marvelous. But that was different than most horror titles. So this is an Aftershock, as I say, an Aftershock comic. And it is currently, it's a mid-month title. So in 2 weeks, we should have the number 3 out. $3.99 cover price, written by Elliot Kalin, illustrated by Andrea Muti, letters by Taylor Esposito. The maturity level is mature, definitely for language and some of the violence mature. How often do our stories rise from the ashes of disappointment? The book that's so poorly written it convinced us that we could do better and become writers ourselves, or the movie with a premise chokeholding our imagination, but then failing to deliver. Well, that latter drove writer Elliot Kalin to create Maniac of New York. The second issue proves his prowess, helming a comic book reimagining of basically, and he admits it, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. He's included a final girl, Ellen Ripley element with his protagonists, 2 of them, and given both of them the crusading loose cannon undertone every bit as 1989 as the monster that they're hunting. Kalin felt that Jason Takes Manhattan promised a hockey masked, unstoppable killer, and all-you-can-slash bill of fare across an unsuspecting New York landscape, but then delivered tepidly, disappointing his very youthful little self. That's why, number 1, we get Kalin's tale of a masked slasher called Maniac Harry, inhuman, unkillable, unstoppable, who's relocated following his genesis at a New Jersey summer camp called Glasswater Lake. And now he's preying on the citizenry of New York City for the last 4 years, ever since he arrived there. It's a back then kind of New York with flashes of now. You've got warring political factions on state and municipal levels, sparring between themselves and preventing a unified response to their Harry problem. While games of thrones ensue, the city that never sleeps adapts. 100 residents killed yearly by Harry on average is balanced against 7 million citizens going about their business, a small price for doing business. Political aide Gina Green, sole member of a laughable maniac task force, and disgraced New York police detective Zelda Pettibone see things differently. And they aren't afraid to act on their convictions. Well, Detective Pettibone may be somewhat afraid to act on her convictions, but she's being convinced. The cinematic handling of this book is so perfect. The New York City of the era realized is so seedy, you wonder at how the straightforward storytelling approach works. Then you realize Kalin is a New Yorker. Also, he's won 4 Emmys as the head writer of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. He's written comics for Marvel, DC, and Valiant, and he's been a Harvey Award nominee for that. But most importantly, he was the head writer on Netflix's Mystery Science Theater 3000 and knows from cinematic style, including dark comedy. Now, that last is dealt sparingly because this is Kalin's vengeful horror opus, 30 years in the making. Oh, there's going to be blood, bodies, blood in abundance. Issue number 2 is titled Small Prices, and it reflects the developing crisis from number 1. Harry is loose on the city's first fully automated subway train, a pet project of the mayor's. It's a mayor who knows political capital when he sees it. Keep the train sealed and moving. Consider all the passengers are casualties already, and trap Harry at the end of the line with overwhelming firepower. Our heroes, meanwhile, plot a rescue mission after speaking with the author of a definitive maniac book who imparts, maybe, an exploitable weakness. One passenger, meanwhile, fights to survive and protect 2 children that are trapped on the train with her. Andrea Muti did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo Vertigo adaptations and Hellblazer. He handles the art and the colors, and his line quality and style is simple in the overall, but it takes all the right forms for a maniac monster from the movies. His color choices are jarringly unconventional. He's given the whole issue a very wan and washed out sort of tone, with the exceptions of blood that's pale and fresh, or the occasional dishwater blonde of hair. And at first it felt like an attempted simulation of an ever incandescent Big Apple. But by number 2, it seems more like a muted and nightmarish waking theater of the bete noir, relying on little swatches of inky shadow at times, which feels kind of out of step for most horror films, but heavier inks would then hide Muti's small peculiarities of a maniac Harry crime scene, like illustrating bloody dismemberment with axes and blades, but they're not butcher shop panels awash with bright crimson. They convey the horror on the faces of victims, encapsulate their lives up to that endpoint with expert minimalism by Kalin. Writer and artist make you feel the panic of those characters, their disbelief, and then their demise. Instead of gut piles of entrails, the small details register. The missing foot on a corpse, or a detached hand amid the carnage, weaves a portrait of monstrous randomness, which is far more disturbing than any dissection. I heard it said this week, paraphrasing now, we don't really make monster movies anymore. That horror films rely more on the familial antagonist and the twisted situational menace. Well, Maniac of New York is a throwback. It's a 1980s monster movie dropped into a major metropolitan area where the death count is updated regularly as the weather, and the unstoppable murder machine is a fact of urban life. Scary and unpredictable, but part of the city's rep. Like pigeons and I Heart New York bumper stickers, it's equally likely to be merched and serve as fodder for talk shows and stand-up until he comes for you. This is the undead heart driving the story, unhurrying and relentless along those side roads of the paths that Jason and Michael blazed for us, balancing the classic slasher film against a setting right for the era, but lamentable as right now. Because Kalin knows how to get even with a film franchise for letting him down and how to profit from it. He and Muti established the book's brilliance this way in such perfect nostalgic harmony. I give Maniac of New York, number 2, a score of 9 out of 10.
Wow.
That's high praise coming from you, Clyde.
Yeah.
I liked
Awesome.
it. It was great.
Yeah. So is this a limited series, or is it a mini series, or is it going to be an ongoing series tentatively?
I thought it was limited, but I was reading interviews with him, and apparently, I think it's an ongoing. I need to look and make sure, but I think it's, and the sales have been apparently good enough that I think it's probably going to continue on.
Very cool. Very cool. That did sound good. And we are joined by other people now. Teresa Dunn says, good evening, all. Dropping by before I go on Amy's show. Good luck to you, Teresa. Have a good interview. And Trevor Hawkins, as always, good to see you, sir. And Ryan Permisson, thank you for sharing this. Please, everyone, when you see this, please share this video so your comic loving friends can see other comic lovers. All right. And Ryan, you came up with a great question. We will ask this of the panel following the reviews. Okay. And speaking of reviews, let's instead of going in a geometric pattern. Oh, and Ted Davies, glad to see you too, sir. Ted Davies, don't forget Drinking with the Davies tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. It's a great show. They're going to be handling a drink that was my first instance of imbibing, the Tom Collins. We won't say how old I was when I snuck that drink, but my parents have a lot to answer for. But anyway, let's skip the geometry, the clockwise and the counterclockwise. I can't wait to hear what Eric Hawkins is going to recommend to us today. Eric, please.
Oh, so you're going to me. So you are going clockwise.
I was thinking
me.
Hey man,
I was thinking of me and then you, but now I think you are the one.
Well,
he's just there to
I'll
mess
tell
you
you
up.
what. First of all, I picked up something Clyde recommended a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
Because issue 2 came out, and I loved issue 1 just as much. So I'm not going to review those, but they're really good. So what I picked up,
tease.
I picked up Norse mythology, Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. Now, this was it's an adaptation of a novel he did back in 2017, I believe. It was supposed to come out in May of 2020, but it got pushed back to October. That's when it first started coming out. There's going to be 18 issues of it. I believe 7 issues have come out, and last week or the week before, that's why I picked these up, is last week issue 1 through 6 came out in the trade paperback, which is available. It should be available at your comic book store. In fact, they had all the issues at my comic book store, so I just picked up a couple of the single ones, see if there's anything I'd like. Right away, it's Neil Gaiman, Craig Russell. Mike Mignola is in the first issue, along with Jerry Ordway, Dave Stewart, Laverne Kadursky, and Galen Shulman. Now, all the issues... Pardon?
No.
No. All the issues are going to have different artists going forward, and there's 18 of them, so it's going to run another year and a half. But it is starting out already late, probably because of some kind of pandemic or something. I don't know. So right away, I picked it up. I didn't read it right away. I set it aside because I read that crappy book last week.
-12.
I don't even know where I put it, and I think I might have burned it. But so I read this one this week. I didn't read issue 2 yet, but the vibes I got as soon as I read it were like I picked up something off a shelf through a time machine from the 70s or 80s. And that's how much I liked the book. And everything in it is great. And if you like Norse mythology, it's Norse mythology. It's not Marvel Norse mythology. It's actual Norse mythology. And when they're done with the entire series, it's going to be basically the Bible of Norse mythology from beginning to Ragnarok, the end of all of it. Art, there's like 3 different stories in here, 3 or 4. And art's really good, especially when you get some Magnolia stuff. It's really pretty, and it's really basic because, he's kind of that guy,
That's nice.
And just cool. And reading some of it, I got like Lord of the Ring vibes on it. Like there is one panel here. It just, for some reason, made me think of Lord of the Rings. And I'm going to put on my glasses to actually read it. Odin's eye remains in Mirmir's well, seeing nothing, seeing everything. Time passed. That just reminded me when the ring had fell into the water with what's his name? What is his name? Gollum. When Gollum lost the ring. Right. So basically, it starts out how everything started. Then you get Odin, how he lost his eye It's not like it happened in Marvel. I won't tell you what happened there in case you don't know. Then it goes into Thor and Loki, and not your Marvel Thor and Loki. These are actual Norse mythology Thor and Loki. And it's a story with them and Thor's wife, and it continues into issue 2. I really recommend this book. I'm so excited to read it, just because of the creators that are in it. The subject matter. I've always liked Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and all that stuff, which probably is most comic people do. They do kind of enjoy that because it is, mythology, and that's kind of what we do is comic mythology. So I would actually give this book. Does anyone want to guess? Does anyone want to guess what I'm going to give it?
Let's get everyone in here. We lost Brian for a moment. Let's bring him back. And there we go. You have another
April
blackout?
Fools.
My computer crashed.
Oh crap!
I was in the middle. I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear what he thinks." Okay, everything's gone, and all right, cool.
He
So
said this. Eric said this was the worst thing he's read in 1 week.
I cannot believe Neil Gaiman put out this crap. On a side note, I have not read Stardust, one of his novels.
Yeah,
but it is one of my favorite movies.
It's a great book.
I love the movie. Yeah.
Neil Gaiman can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And same with Craig Russell. He's been one of my fave artists for decades. I will go on right. I'm going to, we're to guess what Eric's going to give this, and we probably better do it fast while the number's still fairly high. I'm going to say 9.5.
I'm going to say 9.
10. I'm giving it a 10.
Nice.
I'm giving this a 10.
Holy cats. That's awesome. It
Yeah,
must be good.
It is so good. And really, when I was reading it, I felt like a kid reading something from when I was a kid. I mean, it was that good to me.
I'm so happy because I picked up the hardback.
Yeah. That's going to be issues 1 through 6.
Yeah.
And I think 7's on the newsstands right now. But man, it is really good. It makes me want to go get the novel and read the novel as well.
We probably shouldn't be surprised because Gaiman is Neil Gaiman, and Craig Russell's been doing some incredible work over the years.
Right.
And he's done I think he did a version of the Ring Cycle for somebody at one point, and he's done classic adaptations. Plus, he did that wonderful series from First Comics originally about Elric of Milner.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. I have the first couple volumes of that.
It's interesting how they list the credits. The story and words by Neil Gaiman, and script and layouts by P. Craig Russell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Russell's
but I mean, it's just it's an amazing book. I love it, and I'll probably go pick up the trade paperback now and keep collecting it. I'd probably I don't know if I want to wait for all 18 issues to come out in one book, though. I don't know if I can wait that long.
Well, knowing how current publishing goes, you'll get the floppies first.
And it is by Dark Horse. You guys might have heard of them. I don't know. When I first started getting comics, Dark Horse basically was a dark horse. I mean, they just had some weird crap.
Yeah.
Some of the images that you were showing kind of conjured, just the brief glimpse of it, but it kind of conjured. If you guys ever read any of the classic Frazetta interiors of Shining Knight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that art. As a kid, I just was enchanted with that. Same kind of enchantment kind of comes off that, vibes off that, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Issue 2 looks just as good as issue 1. So I think it's going to be a great series. And they're only a third into it. So, I mean, jump onto it. Get it. Don't hesitate.
Yeah,
it's only 10 I'll ever give. Done.
Wow. He says that now.
Okay, I'll give it an 11.
Oh, okay. There we go.
That's more like it. And we want to say hello to Ted Davies. I believe we did so earlier. Good to see you, my friend. Michaela Jade, Tidbits and Squiggles, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Please catch that show.
You were going to mess that up. You were going to mess that up one day, and I want to hear it. I so want to hear it.
There is reason why I keep a lot of this stuff written down.
I keep waiting. I'm like,
yeah.
Twin Bits and Tribbles?
Oh, close.
Yeah. I have messed up. I have called it tidbits and squiggles. So you don't have to wait anymore, Eric.
I'm waiting for the titbits.
That's what I'm waiting for.
That's what I'm waiting for. It's gonna happen.
That's when my Freudian slip is showing. And Willow Schuyler, glad to see you here. Dan Hollifield of Stupid O'Clock. Check them out tonight at 9 p.m. They're great. And I bet Carly would like that book. Carl, I think she would. I really would. I know that his lady, Donna, Carly would... she's into mythology, especially the Norse stuff. And I think, seriously, I think this would be a good buy for her. I really do. And Nick Tockert, I love mythology. Glad to see more in comics. Michaela Jade likes Norse mythology. And I have to say, Thor, the original Mighty Thor by Lee and Kirby and all the other people, was my gateway into the interest in mythology. And I remember going to my library and reading the real thing and going, wait a minute. What do you mean Baldur's dead?
Well, Brian and I did a comic story with Thor in it.
Yes, we did.
I would not share the art with anyone right now, but yes, we did.
Eric is paying me a monthly fee to keep that off the interwebs. No, in all fairness, and I could stand to redo the story in all honesty, but mostly because one of the characters in there is divorced from one of the other. But anyway, yeah. So, but no, Eric's his storytelling was solid, as I've told him before. I'm not speaking out of school, but his line work, which while still really, really good, is nothing like the fluidity that he has now. So I'm taking full credit for Eric's artistic development because I had absolutely nothing to do with it. Nicholas Tockert says 9.2, 8.1, 7.5. I end the show 2.6 and 2 bananas. And a good evening to you, Phil Locklear. I hope you're having a great night. And mythological Loki is much more fun and an interesting character. That is true. That's very, very true. So anyway, with Brian having his computer going kerbluey, do you want to do yours real fast just in case?
I think it's fine. It just I'm not sure what happened.
It feared you. It feared you.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't be afraid.
Yes.
Yes. So this week, my goodness, I am reviewing Blood Realm by Robert Geronimo from Alterna Comics. And if you could tell, it's extra floppy because it's in newsprint, which is just so cool. All of Alterna's books, even their trades now, are in newsprint and they're floppy. They're just giant size now. This is actually one of them. I'll just show it off real quick. So this is 80 pages. And it's all newsprint, and it just, I don't know, it excuse me, it just kind of gives that throwback feel, which probably added to my enjoyment of this series. So Blood Realm is a dark fantasy epic set in the lands of Mordrin, where good is evil, evil is good, and only the strong and cunning will survive. It's a really cool tagline, but honestly, it really lives up to just to the the depth that pitch gives. Every issue has a map of the fantasy world, which immediately you got me sold if you have maps that are good looking. And each, let's see if I can pull it in there real quick. Each issue actually follows the main character's journey, because every 3-issue arc is essentially a short story within this realm, and it's dark. It is so dark fantasy to the max. If you like mythology, if you like, if you like, if you've read Memoirs of an Angel, you hear me talk about it all the time. Lord of the Rings meets The Exorcist. Look at this. That's about as close to that description as you could possibly get. And the thing I love about this artwork, it's all done by Robert Geronimo. It's written, lettered and illustrated and colored all by him, and he just does such a great job. Just the art grips you and brings you into the world because it's so consistent throughout, and it's very, very stylized. It's different from pretty much anything I've ever seen in a comic. And I love these. He does a lot of epic full pages that just honestly could be framed and put on a wall. It gives off that same vibe that I had when I read Sin City, just not in a genre way, but just artistically. It's beautiful to look at. It is rated 17 and up, although it's not too bad for that. I thought that I was surprised to see that on Alterna's website that it is essentially rated R. There's some gross moments, some grotesque moments. Other than that, it's really dark, and that's probably why it's for mature readers, because each story dives into even the heroes of the story. They have kind of just a twisted goal, and there's only one story in volume 1 features 3 characters that that are actually the only characters that are the embodiment of good, and they are even a little gray in some areas and terrifying in battle. And really, like I said, it's each right now there are 3 volumes out, and each volume focuses on a certain group of characters. Then they're all intertwined, which I love. By the end of each volume, you find yourself going, "Oh yeah, I read this back here," and it connects in really interesting and really creative ways. Robert Geronimo just does a great job in and like I said, just bringing you into the story with his art and keeping you there with his writing. The writing in this, the style is narrative driven, which is interesting. There's very little dialogue in this entire series. Most of it is just narration from the main character of that specific story, and it is, I mean, beautifully written. There are times, and it rarely does a comic do this to me, but in volume 2, I actually shuddered at one panel, and just the story, the narration going into this panel. The narration alone sent chills. It was so well done, and it is just creepy. It's not, it's like I said, there's a few grotesque moments, but it treats the story like a spooky tale you would tell at a fireplace on Halloween. And it's just so well done. I can't say that enough. You can probably tell where my rating is going. One thing that I have really had a lot of fun with doing, started last week, and I've done it with this series, is I try to kind of go through YouTube for about a half hour or less, no more than that, because that's just too much, and try to find a score that fits with the series that I'm reading. Some comics I've found actually have that, which I'm doing that with Memoirs of an Angel, hashtag always promote. And it just kind of brings the reader into the world more. And I'm going to drop this into the comments section, because honestly, guys, this soundtrack, you can find it on YouTube. It's called it's just 3 hours of dark fantasy music. It's called the Dark Trilogy. It is honestly, like, if they ever were to make an animated series or a live action movie, this score would fit the Blood Realm series perfectly. And like I said, I'm going to drop it in the comments here in just
Brian, if you can't, put it in the private chat, and I think I might be
Okay.
able to copy it. Okay.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. All right, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
problem, man.
And yeah, so I would give this series. Oh, really quick, it is available in a lot of comic book stores. Any comic book store that carries Alterna books, which is becoming more and more popular, should have it. I know I've seen a few of the stores in my city have these just regularly on the shelves. If not, you can go on Alterna and order it, or you can go to your local comic book store and order it from them. And I would say this 10 out of 10. If you enjoy dark fantasy at all, this is right up your alley. Blood Realm, like I said, it's beautifully stylized. Just another look at this artwork. Just so well done, and it's consistent throughout. Actually, I would say his art gets better as the series goes on, but it starts off just so intriguing, and the writing is phenomenal. So 10 out of 10. that's what I got this week. Blood Realm from Alterna Comics by Robert Geronimo. Also, really cool fact about Robert Geronimo: you can follow him on YouTube under the Geronimo Draws. He's also on Instagram. But every week, he will do a live drawing session, and a lot of times he does characters from Blood Realm. Other times he does just different fantasy characters. So as an artist, he's a really cool guy, really intriguing, just stories that he's starting to pump out. So yeah, pay attention to his career as well as this series.
Most excellent. That does sound good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh,
Yeah.
it's honestly, I will say this: it's probably the best comic I've read all year.
Wow.
So far, it really just sucked me in. I actually ended up rereading Volume 1 twice because I liked it so much.
That's fantastic.
The
Well, Ted
map
Davies.
makes me want to get it and run a game on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be perfect for that. Oh, it would be great.
Yeah. Ted Davies says, Brian Rodman, that comic looks amazing. Newsprint. Yes.
And I'll tell you this, really, like there's just nothing. I mean, for us old comic book souls, there's just nothing like just having a nice newsprint comic that you can bend and it's not going to destroy itself, with bending in the spine, because there's no spine, it's just newspaper. But my gosh, yeah, it really did. I think it adds to just the tone of the series because it's so dark. So you have that the black on the newsprint is just kind of faded and gritty looking. Oh, it just adds to it. It's great.
That sounds fantastic. Nick Tockard says, and if you like mythology, please follow Overly Sarcastic Productions on YouTube. You will thank me. I thank you in advance, my friend. But no, those sound amazing. Those sound really cool. Good work, guys. And now for my review this week. And I may be starting to sound like a one-trick pony here, but as you know, a few weeks ago, I reviewed Superman versus Imperious Lex by DC Comics. And finally, and I think it's the last issue of the Future State books, issue 3 came out this week. And not every mini-series can sustain itself. This one just gets better and better with every issue. This is written by Mark Russell, drawn by Steve Pugh. Colorist is Romulo. I'm butchering it. Please forgive me if you ever see this. Fariarto Jr. The letter is Carlos Emmanuel. Yannick Paquette, who he's done a lot of great stuff. He's currently... I think the latest thing he's done for DC is Wonder Woman Year 1, Volume 3 with Grant Morrison. Really beautiful artwork there. And assistant editor was Bixie Mathieu, and Brittany Holzer is the editor, and Jamie S. Rich is the group editor. This is a story takes place in the somewhat immediate future, where Lexor is a planet where Lex Luthor is the big kahuna there. They think he's a hero because he has created a totalitarian government and given them everything that they can want in order to anesthetize themselves against other inequities going on, and has built a rather Lex-centric government, let's say, and Lex is the one voice there. It's very reminiscent of a lot of dictatorships, especially like Nazi Germany, especially. And in this, it's a great game of politics where Lexor wants to be in the the United Planets from the Legion of Superheroes, and the Earth delegate Lois Lane is sending her husband Kal-El of Krypton out to not necessarily mediate, but to work behind the scenes. I.e., he's kind of a terrorist in these things, but for a good reason. The third issue involves Lex's the aftermath of basically his economy being destroyed for the good of the rest of the universe. And there is so much subtlety. In writing, we talk about subtext. In other words, the underlying message to this all. And writer Mark Russell is so good at delivering a solid story of intrigue and superheroics, because Lexor has a red sun. Once Kal-El goes planet side, he's got 3 minutes to to fix things and get the heck out of there before his powers vanish. And meanwhile, of course, Lex has vowed to get him at all costs. The third issue reads great, but when looking at the whole 3-issue run, all issues should be available from your local comic vendor. It holds up remarkably well. There is so much to say about the current politics also in America going on, about bread and circuses, giving people what they want to distract them from what they need. And there's intrigue, there's humor. The relationship between Clark and Lois here is wonderful. They kind of squabble like, a regular married couple, which I can relate to. But anyway, I would give Superman versus Imperious Lex a definite 10 out of 10. It is a solid read, and then subsequent rereadings bring out a richness to the underlying message that Mark Russell is so very good at in everything I've ever read from the guy. So it does come with my heartiest congratulations. I probably really should give this a 9.9 because this is the last issue and I want more. So hopefully DC, if you don't wind up getting sold to somebody, hopefully you will give Mark Russell a chance to write Superman for at least a year. So
DC Comics, a subsidiary of Lexor.
There we go.
Man, yeah.
There we go. Stay tuned for our new title, Superman Sucks and Bad.
Oh man.
So anyway, that is my review for the week. And as always, folks, we hope that you will go to your local comic book shop or wherever you buy your comic books and check out what's on the stand. If you only like one kind of comic, you may be depriving yourself because there's a wealth of fun stuff out there that you could be enjoying. And so we've got a question from our audience that we haven't tackled yet, and I think it could be fun. Ryan Permisson, who is a fantastic YouTube broadcaster, also on the Hanging with Web Show Network with some great shows. He is looking for new things in pop culture to study and absorb and understand why some of us enjoy what we do. He would like to know if there are any kaiju book or comic recommendations. And for those of you who don't know, kaiju are basically the big monster things.
You mean like Godzilla and King Kong?
Why? It's fortunate that you should mention that, Eric. The recently released Godzilla versus King Kong.
Unfortunately, they had people in that. Otherwise, I'd give that a 10 out of 10 too.
I'm not going then. I don't like people. I like monsters.
I can send it to you. Don't worry.
Okay. Whew, that was close.
Hey, Ultraman, Marvel just is doing an Ultraman series right now. Ultraman fights big monsters. So then there's a new one out, but I can't find it. But I did find there's a Koa Raptor, Kaiju of the Wind by Antarctic Press, which just recently came out last month, issue 3. So that it looks kind of neat. But there's a new Kaiju book out. I just don't remember what the name of it is.
Yeah, I know. For me, what brought me into the kaiju craze, I was late to the game, was Pacific Rim, and they did a comic book series follow up that kind of connected some dots. It was pretty good. Cool. I don't think it's ongoing now, but it came out when the movie was released, and yeah, it would definitely be something worth reading. I really enjoyed the comic as well as the first movie. The second one was poo poo. But the comic in the first movie was pretty good.
That sounds good. Clyde, do you have any recommendations?
I read the Marvel's, is it the Trial, I think? The Trial of Ultraman?
Yeah, I believe so.
This new one that they came out with. I read the first one because I don't know a lot about, I'm not a big kaiju fan. I do like Godzilla movies. I like King Kong. I like that kind of stuff. But as far as reading a lot of kaiju comics, unless you count Where Monsters Dwell, back in the day of Kirby, Fin Fang Foom, not so much. So I kind of got on that because it was a new series just to see. They are reshaping the mythology, so I was a little bit confused. I don't know if it would be a good start, but they've had some other titles through Marvel, so you might check out the Ultraman there. But also, I do kind of like the setup that they had, but I don't know enough about him, and it was a little confusing. There is, speaking of Fin Fang Foom, this month, just out on the stands, Beta Ray Bill #1. It's a little mini series from Marvel, and it's got Fin Fang Foom on the cover. Now, if you want to see a classic Marvel bad guy kaiju sort of thing, you might give that a look. It's also the artist Johnson from Murder Falcon is doing the writing and the art for it, and he's very distinctive. It's a really I kind of recommend that you. I haven't read my copy yet, but I love his art. I liked his titles in the past. I'd give that a shot if I were looking for some kaiju exposure.
Yeah, I actually, this is kaiju, very kaiju-esque. The Power Rangers comics.
Yes, yeah.
Honestly, the Power Rangers comics far outweigh in quality what the show ever wanted to be, and especially the series the limited series they did on the evil White Ranger was so good. So yeah, I would, I mean, that's classic Power Rangers fun with giant monsters and robots. Where can you go wrong?
Exactly. Well, and I would steer people also towards the back issue bin. And I think most of these comics that I'm about to mention are relatively inexpensive. In the 90s, there was a very limited Ultraman run from Harvey Comics with art by Ernie Colon, who did Amethyst and a whole bunch of other great comics back in the day. And also, there was a Godzilla. There were several Godzilla series. Dark Horse did a few, including one where he met basketball player Charles Barkley, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Marvel
there
did
were good ones too.
Yeah, Marvel had a Godzilla one back in the day too.
Yeah. I think the Dark Horse had an issue or two that was drawn by Art Adams, which is worth buying for the art alone. Yeah. But Marvel also did I think it's like 2 years worth of a Godzilla comic with Doug Minch writing, who was a former Batman writer, master of Kung Fu, a lot of great series back in the day, and drawn by Herb Trimpe, who was the Hulk artist for over 10 years.
I think I had an issue of that. I remember having it was when my mom used to get the ones with the cover torn off at the convenience store she worked at. But it was Godzilla shrunken down, fighting a little sewer rat.
Yes. Yes.
In the sewer. Yeah.
Oh, those are beautiful. And I remember the Comics Journal had an article about a follow-up series that Minch and Trimpe did called Shogun Warriors, which is really good also. I don't know if they ever reprinted or not, because Marvel does own that. No, they don't own that. That was a toy line, excuse me.
Yeah, that was a toy line, because I did have the Godzilla from that line. That shot his fists out and had the flicky plastic tongue that's supposed to represent fire.
Oh, yeah, those were cool. Yeah. But the thing is, the article introduced the Shogun Warrior review as from the company that shrunk Godzilla. So, but anyway, they're really good. They're really good. And also, I would recommend Gold Key Comics, which is a long defunct company, but major back in its day. Yeah. They did a series of Battle of the Planets that was marvelously done and drawn by former DC and Marvel artist Winslow Mortimer. They were beautiful, had a lot of suspense to them, and there was also like a series, a couple of Godzilla and King Kong knockoffs in I think it was AIP Films did them, Gorgo and Konga. You may remember that. And Charlton Comics had done some issues of those, some of which were drawn by Steve Ditko. So they're good. Those were good at least. And I think somebody put out a reprint volume. I want to say Drew Ford put out a pair of those from back in the day in Charlton. So there's some good stuff in the back issue bin. The Charltons may be a little expensive, but if you can find the recent reprints, I think those will serve you well. So, and see, Brian Hawkins says there was also a Voltron comic a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's still going, Voltron is fairly kaiju-esque. That is true. And yes, Minizillas. They left Godzilla on the rain and he shrank. That's what you get for getting cheap stuff for him. But anyway, also, if you want to learn more about Ultraman does have an official channel on YouTube. And I've been following, it's really rekindled my love of Ultraman. Something called Ultraman Z, that they're currently rerunning. And the 8th episode just came out. Please watch that, Ryan. That is fantastic. And Ultraman's one of those characters, he's kind of like a legacy character in Japan, much the way as Doctor Who is in Great Britain. And there's like this whole mythology now about the 7 Ultra brothers and Ultra 7, Ultraman Zero, Ultraman Gaia, Ultraman Red and Blue. Nothing to do with the Superman thing, but it's a very rich mythology that is worth exploring. And Cindy Cap says, I hear there is a game and some novels about big stompy robots. That's true. Nicholas Stockard on Amazon. Please check them out. It's a great pickup game. You would love that too. Thank you, Cindy Cap, CKOEPP.com. Check out our newsletter. Sign up today. So anyway, Ryan, I hope we've given you some help there. That's pretty much most of the ones I can think of.
Yeah.
Going on right now, at least. And of course, I'm living in the past, so that's what I know. So anyway, we, as usual, we talk amongst ourselves. And if anyone here has a question for us in the time we have remaining, please don't hesitate to ask it, and we will discuss things that you want us to do. And also, please, I want to remind everyone, if you're watching us on Facebook, please give this video a like if you've enjoyed any part of it. Please share it if you would. And also, please like the page you're watching it on if you can. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please consider subscribing to this channel, as well as giving this a big thumbs up. And be sure to ring the notifications, because every time you do, an angel gets its wings. So anyway,
or a kaiju. A kaiju gets its wings.
Kaiju gets its
Mothra. Kaiju gets its radioactive breath.
Ooh.
How can you pass that up?
Just like Eric.
Exactly. It's for yes.
Well done, sir.
Well played, Eric. Well played, Brian. So, as usual, the four of us talk to each other. I know. What a concept, huh? Like pre-planning and crap like that?
We actually like each other. Isn't that weird?
Well, those three like each other. I'm kind of on the outs with people. But anyway, which I understand. I'm not saying it's their fault. But anyway, one of the things we talked about this week, hold on. We have a great comment from Ted Davies. Brian Rodman, the Ronin Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series was a great recommendation.
Yeah. It is. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Ted. That honestly, man, like it's. I will say this. I know I said that this was the best series that I've read so far, aside from The Last Ronin, which was my other 10 out of 10 that I gave. I just, gosh, if a comic can make me cry, it's got to be good.
What? No love for Midnight Theater of Crap I reviewed last week? Come on.
Such an appealing title, sir.
I went to my local comic shop, and oddly enough, they didn't carry it.
I was upset. I wanted to pick up X-Men Legends 2 this week, and my comic shop didn't have it. It was supposed to be out. Now I got to go to another one and look for it.
Well, dang. Okay, Clyde, you had something to say?
What he reviewed last week made me cry, but it wasn't the same kind of crying as Brian, I don't think.
Clyde's like, why? It's so bad.
I cried, but I was chopping onions at the time. So
or skeletons.
Yes, all skeletons all the time. Stay tuned for Eric's new project, All Skeleton Comics. But anyway,
I always write down the titles as we go, and when Eric, after he started off with his, I wrote down the title, and by the end of it, I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Scratch it out until the paper rips. This is terrible.
No, on that one. Yeah. Erasing. Yeah, really.
No comics for you.
Come back 1 year.
Yeah, so please, folks, this reminds me, folks, if you ever try any of the comics that we recommend, please let us know what you thought of them.
Yeah.
See if any of them have made you happy, or if say you're sending a hitman to get Eric because you ignored his warnings about the last one. So anyway, So anyway, one of the subjects we discussed last week was well, actually, we talked about two things. We'll talk about. We'd love to hear everyone else's replies on this. But guilty pleasures. What comic books?
Oh, comic books.
Yeah, yeah.
Eric's like, this is now a different show.
Eric and I will be on
the camera. Sorry,
for this one.
Shut up, Christian. Just shut up, Christian.
Yeah, Christian.
And that's when Christian died.
Oh, we love it. And yes, Ted Davies said, Eric, that comic was a dumpster fire.
That Eric was peeing on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. In order to save us all. And Last Ronin says Brian Hawkins has been great so far. Wish it was coming out more often. Yeah, but the thing is, though, I think it has like a higher page count.
Yeah, it's like 52 pages.
Yeah.
So they do. Yeah, it's unfortunately they're doing them one at a time essentially, but they're working on it. Actually, I follow and interact with Ben Bishop, who drew the second issue. And he's a part of the team, and he every now and then he'll send out a page, and I told him, I said, successful job, sir, you made me cry, and he cackled in my face on Facebook. So
well,
but no, the third one's in the works.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say, oversensitive little anyway, but
you may have a beard, but you're not a man now, are you?
That's right. Does your beard to wipe up your tears, are you little lassie?
I bet you wear the underwears under the kilt, don't you? Yeah, lassie.
That leads me to a line to which you all would be saying, shut up Christian and then shut up Brian about. But anyway, we talked about guilty pleasures. What have we read that we enjoy that we probably shouldn't love as much as we do? And I forgot to bring up my examples. Today's been a fun day. So anyway, who would like to start with a comic book that brings you so much joy despite what it's like? And Eric? Yes, sir.
I have a series that long defunct series. It came out back in the had to be the late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it was just late 90s. It's been a long time. But unfortunately, I really enjoyed it. And it's mostly because of the names associated with it. And it was an Image book.
Okay.
It was all drawn by Jim Lee, which is one of my favorite artists. And it's not Wildcats. It's Divine Right, The Adventures of Max Faraday.
Yes, I remember that.
It wasn't a great book, but I loved it just because it's Jim Lee. I love Jim Lee's art, and I believe Brandon Choi might have wrote it too. I don't remember who wrote it, but I had some guest appearances by Gen 13. They at one point they stop off in St. Louis and go to Taco Hell, which is shaped like the Del Taco that used to be in St. Louis but closed down, which is a big circle building. I think now it's a Starbucks. But I was like, oh, I know that place. And it was just kind of cool. I looked forward for it all the time. Anytime when it was coming out, it was 12 issues. I think it was a long running miniseries. Right, yeah. Often late, of course. And I even got like a Spanish version because the comic shop had it one time. Like, ooh, I want that. Ooh, a variant cover. I haven't seen this. I just picked up all kinds of crap regarding that, and it wasn't a great story, but I remember. But I still have it in a box somewhere. I just love the art and what was going on with it.
Well, Jim Lee is from St. Louis, I believe.
He's from Korea. He lived in St. Louis for a while, then moved out to California, I guess. I know he has a home in Italy as well.
With his money, he's probably got a home every damn where. If I had his money, I'd throw mine away.
Yeah. So comics have been good to him. Been very, very good to him. He lived in St. Louis for a while. I don't know how long it was. I know I met him in St. Louis at one of the comic shops over in north by the airport.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So, Clyde, Brian, what do you have?
Clyde, you got one?
I do. I got one. This is perfect for April Fool's Day too. A long time ago, back ages and ages ago, there were these two comic book companies. One was very well established and had a premier superhero, and everybody came to work in ties and suits, and they were Madison Avenue could do no wrong, fair-haired children. And the other was just kind of an upstart with a bullpen, and they made all kinds of comedy and stuff. Well, one day, somebody at the Distinguished Competition offices managed to put in one of their funny magazines a Spidey Man kind of parody, an arachnid-powered hero parody. And when the little company saw that, they went, "That's not funny. We can be funnier than that. Oh, the gauntlet's thrown now." And they came up with a comic book called Not Brand Ech, which was a play on the 1960s ad campaign of, Not Brand X. No, Not Brand X. We don't say that it can't be done. Well, Not Brand Ech was the Marvel poking fun at themselves, but also taking a backward slap at, as you can see right there, you've got Superman, the origin of Superman, and the same issue as the origin of the Fantastical Four. They're silly. I mean, Mad Magazine staff would look at it and go, "That's just silly." But I loved them. And then they had things like they introduced, and they would also riff on, kind of like Mad Magazine, they would riff on things that were popular. You have Bonnie and Claude there from the time when the Bonnie and Clyde movie was big. Nice. Four Bushman was like their mascot, their little non-powered guy. But it also really, really was great to have Marie Severin art. She had a real comedic flair, and she had done work on the Hulk, coloring and doing finishes on the Hulk for Trimpe's run for part of it. And I loved her work there. And then to go from that dramatic style to see her do these funny books. So over the years, I have slowly collected. I think I have all of them now. There weren't a whole lot. It didn't last very long.
It's like 13 issues, I believe.
But I just really loved it. And I'm not ashamed to say I'm still a fan. On days when things are rough during the COVID crisis, pulled these out and laughed all over again. So
nice.
Yeah. And the thing is also not only Marie Severin, but also Jack Kirby did a number of issues too. True. Clyde might get this one. I remember Kirby drew like a parody of the Fantastic Four in the first one. And he and Dr. Doom were having a shout off against each other about who was the coolest. and Dr. Doom would be like, "Well, I have my own set of armor." And Reed would go, "Well, I've got 100 pair of stretch socks." And Doom would be like, "Okay, I know magic." And Reed would be, "I've got 100 pair of stretch socks." And then the next panel was like, "I've got my own European country." And Reed go, "Well, I've got 100." And go, "Shut up about the socks already." And one thing is, there we go. And then Thor.
Now, here's something too. Marvel just had a sense of humor, and a self-deprecating sense of humor. So it's hard for the competition, the distinguished competition, to make fun of you when you do a better job of making fun of yourself. I always wanted this shirt. Here comes the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Right? Do you remember what the back of it was? There goes the
Incredible Hulk.
And he's pulling this little duck, this little toy duck, like on wheels. Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, that was an ad for a Frank Zappa album on the opposite page.
Yes, I remember a Meatloaf ad for Twinkies in some of the comics or something like that. I remember Meatloaf being in the comics. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we could probably do a whole show on celebrities like Kiss and people like in the Cowsills and comics and
now they just advertise themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or the hostess ads.
Yes, I love the hostess ads. Oh my God, so much. Yes, God. But no, that's a great choice. I of course I'm older, so I picked a lot of those up as a kid. Thor again by Kirby with Stan Lee writing too. Stan had a great flair for comedy, and there was like a scene where Thor's landing on the Rainbow Bridge, and there's Heimdall who's wearing
the Mighty Thor. He was
the Mighty Thor. That's right. The Mighty Thor. And Heimdall has like these Coke bottle glasses. They're probably about this thick, And Thor's like, oh, there is mighty Heimdall, who can hear the fluttering of a hummingbird's wings in Disneyland, who can, count the feathers on its back. And there's, Heimdall holding out his sword and goes, yeah, but I'm a little shaky on things up close. Could you step back a few million miles so I can make out? And it was all that. And then the one issue that Clyde held up, issue 7, with the origin of Superman by Roy Thomas and Marie Severin. I put it up there with Super Duper Man from Mad by Harvey Kurtzman and Will Elder. It is brilliant.
I think that was the first one I ever read, because the Superman thing sold me. It was fall down funny.
It was great. And Trevor Hawkins goes, a show on spoof comics would be excellent. There were quite a number of them. In fact, the follow-up to Not Brand X was called Spoof, and it ran like 5 issues or so. And it was, it made you miss Not Brand X. But anyway, it wasn't bad, actually. It was pretty good. So, Eric or Brian, do you have, or, Eric's already done his. Brian, do you have? Yeah,
obviously it was so memorable, Eric.
I'm still thinking of skeletons, skeleton horses. So anyway,
I honestly thought you were gonna just say the comic that you reviewed last week, Eric. Oh.
Yeah. Here. Oh! Now he's going to get it out of the toilet, wring it out, and bring it back to us. Way to go, Brian! You triggered him.
I'm only here to give. That's what we're here for.
It wasn't this one. This one's good. Thunder Punch. Red Rooster.
He threw it again.
$4.99.
Midnight Western Crap.
Oh wait, Eric, are you still gonna get issue 2?
I am. Yeah, I'll give it a second shot. I also learned that it's the author's only second series he's ever done.
Oh, okay. So
I will give him a second shot.
Yeah.
I mean, my first series is going great, so I don't know what his problem is.
I was gonna say my first series is pretty good, so I feel like we're good here. Who are we to judge?
We are who we are. That's what's carrying the show. I'm telling you right now. So Brian, what's your choice? What's your guilty pleasure?
It's funny you said that, and when we talked about it, I didn't really have a whole lot, and then I remembered
Elfquest.
I actually thought about Elfquest, but I was like, I only read a couple issues of that.
My wife is like a consummate Elfquest fan. We had to go meet the creators when they came to a comic shop near us. So back in the 90s. And that was okay. I mean, it was really cool. And I like some of the issues too, but careful what you say, because she watches the show. So, she went Ginny.
No, honestly,
you're out of the will, Brian. You're out of the will.
I haven't read enough to have an opinion on Elfquest.
I haven't either. I've got a couple of issues somewhere around here, but I haven't read many of them.
This is the internet. What do you need proof for?
Look at the co-creator Wendy Pinney as Red Sonja.
Yeah,
and that's what I took stuff for her to sign, because I remember that she had played Red Sonja for the Frank Thorne Red Sonja Wizard and Red Sonja shows back in the day. Mm-hmm. She'd been on To Tell the Truth. I remember seeing her in the Red Sonja outfit. Right. And so I took that, and she's like, she was an older lady at the time, and she was very cool with it. She's like, oh, hey, have you guys ever seen this? And she showed them to the comic book, the guys who run the shop. And have you ever seen me? And they're like, whoa. She's like, wow. Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got no complaints.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Brian.
But mine is not Elfquest. It is the Batman Forever comic book version.
Okay.
And I have it somewhere. I tried to find it and I couldn't find it. But I remember the thing because I got to tell you, I loved Michael Keaton as Batman as a kid, but Batman Forever was really kind of what, I don't know, it struck me as a kid. Now I've rewatched it and I'm like, ugh. But the comics the same way. But the cool thing about the comic is not the writing or the art. It's the additional scenes that were in the script that didn't make it in the movie.
Yeah.
And one of the most striking was that I remember this was like the darkest thing the first like really dark moment in comics came from this book. And it was the very beginning. Originally in the script, Tommy Lee Jones, it showed how Two-Face escaped Arkham, and he hangs one of the guards from the ceiling. And like I remember looking at this page going, what in the world? And then like watching the movie and trying to be like, where is it? I don't understand. Rewind, like play, rewind. And all the kids are like, what is that?
Yeah.
So no, but really, and it's but that I think really kind of solidified that, and the death of Superman really solidified my love for comics. I don't know. I tore that graphic novel up because I read it so much. And even to this day, I just have fond memories of it. It's crap because the movie isn't that good either. The script was just but it's just such a cool, I don't know. It's like just a junk food that's terrible for you, but that just makes you feel good at the end of the day. So that's mine. Because other than that, I don't have anything else. Like everything, I only read prestigious work. So there was nothing else for me.
And I go through my comic boxes, and I'm thinking, did I ever get anything good?
No, Joe, I was trying. I was going through all my old stuff, and I'm like, I literally like. I was like, I literally like everything here, and there's a couple things that I don't really care for, but they're not a guilty pleasure. They're just like, why did I buy this?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's got to be it for me.
Oh man. Well, I have two. I think I've mentioned one of them on the show before. Saul Brodsky was one of the people. He was who helped bring in the Marvel Age of Comics. He was their production manager at the time. He was also a fantastic artist on his own. And his son went into publishing in the 80s with a venture called Solson. And one of their titles, which I got no pleasure from, but it was one where we can make you a celebrity. We can make you a star. Give us $60 and we'll print per page, we'll print your comic book for you. But we'll take all the money for it. It was like vanity publishing. It's like you pay to get inside this comic, and then we will sell that comic, but you don't get any money for it. We do. So it was a good little scam there. But eventually, they somehow talked Rich Buckler into working with them. And he did like a lot of covers and some inking here and there. And one of the books that he wrote, or not wrote rather, this was written by a guy who I found out later was like a stand-up comedian. And I saw some of his routines, and I'm like, stick to comics. But he did a 3-issue miniseries called Reagan's Raiders.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. The premise is that Ronald Reagan and his cabinet are all superpowered people, and they go and oh, it gets better, Brian. They fight like evil in other countries. They overthrow dictatorships, all through their superpowered might. And Secretary of State by day, Avenger of the Dark by night.
Oh, that's excellent.
Oh yeah, and it was really, the art was really kind of good. But the only really quality thing in there was an ad for a potential Thunder Agents. Of course, I've mentioned I love that series. Thunder Agents that they were going to do, and the art was going to be by Jim Lee. But it never got printed. In fact, I talked to some people that knew Jim Lee, so they never even. The only art that Jim Lee did was for that ad. But but no, this is a perfectly wretched comic book, and especially since this is in real time. This is during the Reagan administration.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, and the only comic book that was like it was one that was released in the mid '60s. The Great Society comic book, and it was based on the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration. I can't remember, DJ Arneson and Tony Tallarico, who drew like everything in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But that's one of my guilty pleasures because this book is such an abomination of writing and just the very premise of superhero.
But the art was good.
The art was decent. It really was. Buckler re-inked a lot of that stuff, and it was palatable for that reason, which is probably one of the reasons I like my second choice. And this is one that I've described it to people, and their usual response is, "You're lying. Nobody would make a comic book like this." The comic book was put out by a group called American Comics Group, ACG. Which started in the late 40s and eventually became famous for this title in particular, as well as the fact that the editor wrote virtually every story there, but under a variety of pen names. Okay, and it's called Herbie. Now you may be thinking,
I was like the car.
no, this predates. In fact, the book was canceled by the time the Love Bug, hit the screens.
Oh wow!
This is Herbie Popnecker, who has like one of those mixing bowl haircuts, thick, round, horn-rimmed glasses. His expression never changes. His eyes are usually half closed. He's as round as he is tall. His parents think he's a total waste of DNA. And,
are you sure this isn't about me? No.
Yeah, no. And I'm reading this going, I'm in the room, guys. I'm in the room. But it was drawn by Ogden Whitney, which, if you're a fan of my work, you know that he was the guy who drew Skyman back in the 1940s. I'm an amazing artist who drew this thing. Now, the thing is, this Herbie is a loser. His parents don't like him. His teachers can't understand him whatsoever. He talks, he's only got slightly. The only character with worse grammar is probably the Bizarros.
They have a lisp?
No, he didn't have a lisp. That's about the only thing. What he had was lollipops.
Yeah.
He carried lollipops with him, and each one gave him a different power, or gave someone else a different power. Like this one ugly guy, and one thing he had, gave him one lollipop that fixed his teeth. Then the next lollipop fixed his hair, and the next one cleaned his acne up. But the thing is, Herbie, once he got out of the house, he couldn't fly usually, but he could walk, just generally walk on air to wherever he needed to go. He could talk to animals, and they all lived in fear of him. And, it'd be it gets better, Brian. And there's like a dinosaur or a mountain lion be like, I'm going to kill everyone. Arr! And then Herbie goes, go away. And, oh, you're Herbie Popnecker. No, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Sort of thing. And, he'd go to Hollywood and suddenly, like all the leading men, Cary Grant, Rock Hudson, be looking at him like, why can't I be like him? Why can't I be that sexy and that wonderful? And there'd be like a scene where Herbie is on the couch with like Gina Lollobrigida or Sophia Loren, and they'd be like, get your hands off of him, you witch, he's mine. No, I will kill you to get this man, this Herbie Popnecker. It gets better, Brian. Because during the height of the comic book, the revival of superheroes that came up, he adopted his own identity. He put like a blue mask over his face, of course, with the glasses on the outside, wore a plunger on top of his head, and got his long red underwear with the flap in the back, of course, and the blue cape, and a big round emblem that gave his name, Fat Fury. And he'd go off and have superhero adventures, too.
I feel like the Herbie version, though, like before I feel like that's like an obscure character that Scott Snyder would now bring back and make him a serial killer in Gotham City for Batman to fight.
Probably would.
See, and in that version, I would love
too. He'd use that plunger.
Say that the plunger on his head.
Whoa,
easy there with that motion. This is a family show.
Not now. But anyway, no, Dark Horse did some reprints of him in the 1990s. And I think a couple of original stories, but they just didn't have the charm of there was just something so wonderful, that this, like, Brian, your reaction is perfect. That it's like, Morris has got to be making this stuff up. But Clyde was shaking his head like, no, Brian's telling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I'm underselling it, if anything.
When you
But
said that he could talk to animals and they were terrified of him, it's just that part. Like, I don't know why, because I have no knowledge of this book whatsoever. But it just made me think of like he's just this nerd that no one loves, and he like loves animals and wants to talk to them, and they're like no, and they run away.
I think it's more like animals are not used to it. We all know animals. We have animals in our family, and if we could actually speak their language, it would freak them out.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa, it's that puppeteer guy. Oh no.
and a lot of this stuff, everybody just accepts it. Herbie can walk on air. Yeah, that's fine. His parents don't know it. And he can talk to like animals. And he can probably even convince your cat to like me. That sort of thing.
I don't know, man. This
is Herbie though. This is
that's true.
So
now Brian brought up my second choice. Brian brought up Gotham City.
Yeah.
And for all you folks out there that are into, the Batman who laughs, the Joker, all four of them being psychotic anti-heroes, and Batman, never sits down. Batman, I'm the Batman. I never sit down. Can't be shown sitting down, because that would mean that I'm taking time off from my never-ending battle against crime. Those people that are so serious. When I get into one of those books, which I stumble into occasionally, then I go and I find my favorite team up.
There it is.
With the Joker and the Batman together, and the Boy Wonder not being beaten to death by a crowbar, but having to deal with Jerry Lewis. And
I
nice lady.
And I remember that this is why we like funny books sometimes, is because they didn't quite take themselves so seriously back then. Anyway, it's a nice contrast to some of the modern takes.
No.
And that's why I love like if I read a Death in the Family or something like that, I'll go if I get too dark. I'll always jump back. I have my giant collector's box edition of the 66 Batman show, because stuff like that, man, like that is fun. And that's actually my first introduction to Batman. I mean, I was, born in the 80s, and Michael Keaton was my first. Michael Keaton was always Batman to me. But no, the movie, the Batman 66 movie, we had it on VHS. I watched that thing over and over again. I had all the 66 toys, and you remember at the end of the movie, they were all on the submarine, and if you got punched and they fell in the water, and I would reenact that all the time while I was watching it. But then I would also use the toys and do the entire scene in my bathroom sink, fill it up with water, and I loved that show so much, so much.
Yeah.
So I love it when when you can have fun with a character, because for me, I took it seriously as a kid. It wasn't camp for me. It was serious. And so now I look back and I still even get I catch myself just taking it seriously the whole time, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, and that's Batman 66 was the movie that convinced me for a very short time that submarines didn't have propellers pushing them through the water. It was a pair of, fins that had the back of a boat. I'd watch that, I'd just crack up, and I'm like, Mom, is that how it works? And she's like, no.
And you took shark repellent to the beach.
I was going to say, shark repellent was my thing as a kid. I was like, what? I was like, you can do that? That's great. And I think that's actually where my fear of sharks came from.
But it had a valuable life lesson, because there are some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
And also, don't trust Mirage yachts.
That's right. That's right. Yes. No, I love that film. That was the first film that I actually went back and saw it in the theater more than once.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was. And to this day, I think it's a great movie. But we still have some comments here. Cindy Cap says, not a comic, but there's an MG series by Bruce Hale called Chet Gecko. They're spoofs of film noir with all kinds of puns and titles like The Malted Falcon and Murder, My Tweet.
That's funny.
I love it. And a movie, Hawk the Slayer. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. There's a classic. Ted Davey says his guilty pleasure read has got to be Mike Mignola's The Amazing Screw-On Head. I read it all the time, and I find a copy anyway I buy. You know, and that reminds me, one Randy Zimmerman was talking about it on his Sunday Funny show. I think it was last weekend. He was pulling out some odd formatted stuff, and before the show, we were talking about Scott McCloud, which I can probably talk about after a while. But Scott McCloud's the guy who did the 3-volume book on understanding and making comics that are brilliant books. But he did a one-shot called Destroy, and it took place in Manhattan, and it was this big Hulk-like character, more like Bulldozer from Thor. Big square shoulders, crew cut, and all he would yell is "Destroy! Destroy!" And all it was 32 pages of massive violence. And it had a great payoff at the end, and McCloud even included a damage map that showed you where each page happened in Manhattan.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's brilliant. Now, it came out in a treasury size.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember the Wednesday comics from about 10 years ago, the oversized things, that was the size it came out in. And they also did, I think, a comic. They did several other formats for it. But if you ever see that, that's a brilliant comic, too. Brian Hawkins says, I don't remember a lot about Divine Right, but love the art. And I believe it crossed over into other Wildstorm books, too. I even got the 1/2 issue from Wizard.
Got that, too. Yep.
Yeah, 1/2 issues.
Half issue.
and Dan Hollifield was reading my mind. I was thinking of them, too. Inferior 5, my guiltiest of pleasures. That was I've mentioned them several times on this show, kind of like a internal parody of the Justice League of America. But they took a few swipes at Marvel every now and then, and
I think that was the title that they had, the swipe at Spider-Man. I believe it was like an arachnid guy with arms. I think that was an Inferior 5.
That sounds right. That sounds right. But it's kind of fun, when you start looking at the credits, and the first artist on that, Joe Orlando, went on to edit like most of the mystery books and was one of the chief artists at EC Comics 10 years before. And the writer was a guy named E. Nelson Bridwell, who went on to write the comic book version of the Super Friends. Very intelligent writer. And Mike Sikowski was, I think, the second artist.
The main artist. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did Justice League for the first 10 years, as well as Wonder Woman and a whole bunch of other great titles. Brian Hawkins says, I have issue 2 of Reagan's Raiders. Came in one of those mail-order bundles of comics. Probably one like, what the hell are we going... Where's that much of stuff? And it's no longer our problem. Yeah, I could see that. That's our list of guilty pleasure.
Oh, I got one more. Do you guys remember? I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember buying it when it came out, and it probably should be the guilty pleasure because I'm embarrassed to even admit it now. It was a trucker comic. US1 by Marvel.
US1, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
During the big CB, craze, they did a trucker comic. I think they had to fight the devil or something, or made a deal with the devil. It was some weird stuff. He had a metal plate in his head and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. I remember that. That came out also about the time they did this is no relation to the South Park guys thing, Team America. Except the problem was that wasn't good.
Yeah. It's probably around the time New Universe came out too, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I think
there's another one. I liked all those New Universe books.
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Those were some of them were a lot of fun, and I especially liked Merc, the first 4 issues by Peter David. I didn't like it so much as I liked it still, but not as much after that. Yeah. It got a lot more serious. But when the second wave of creators took over, that's when I think the New Universe started getting really, really good. And John Byrne did like a year's worth of Star Brand, I think it was.
Mhm.
Some of the characters have bled over into
Yeah.
the mainstream Marvel universe, but buy them anyway. But that's the one nice thing I think about a lot of what we've recommended tonight. If anyone wants to read them, probably with the exception of the Jerry Lewis and the Not Brand Ech, because they were good. Probably most of the stuff that the rest of us have mentioned can be found at a fairly reasonable price on the secondary market.
Oh, definitely. Mine was
Oh, yeah.
Image, so you could find it in the quarter bins.
Oh my god!
Actually, the ones that I was showing, I got these for just a few dollars because most of them they're not perfect. I don't want them perfect. I want them so I can read them and not worry about.
Yeah,
you know.
Here.
But these were all bought at regional shows for. I doubt that there's $10 in this whole pile of comics that I've got. So, and that's been in the last few years. So, if you don't care about the condition so much, even those you can find easy.
Yeah, there's some good reading. I remember Jerry Lewis also did a Superman issue and the Flash, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and I really like the Superman issue, and it kind of influenced me in my writing in that, there's stupid jokes flying like Superman, but at the heart of it, there's a serious plot. And there's a serious danger going on that, of course, only Superman can save them from, but this boob Jerry Lewis keeps interfering. So, and the one bad thing about this, though, is the fact that because it's a licensed comic, the chances are very, very slim we will ever see a reprint of it. And the thing is, a lot of them are brilliant. A lot of them were written by the guy that created the Doom Patrol, Arnold Drake. So, and Brian Hawkins says, I think US1 might have been in that bundle too. What did you do to piss them off, Brian? That's all I've got to know. But you know what else was in there that I read over and over? Miracle Man #2. There you go.
Ooh, yeah.
I think it was Mile High when I ordered from them. When you used to have to write a check and send it off.
Oh yeah.
They always included a Miracle Man in with the stuff you ordered. It seemed like.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and if you want good reading copies, that's a good place to get them. Actually, they're pretty accurate on their grading. If anything, because I wrote an article on Supergirl for Back Issue Magazine a number of years ago, and I needed some of the adventure comics she was in, because I misplaced mine through a couple of moves, and I got some reading copies. They were actually better than the condition they described them in, at I thought, very reasonable price and reasonable shipping. So this is not an endorsement, but it's close as you'll get until they start underwriting this show, which would be nice. So anyway, Chuck called me. Anyway, I think we are at the end of the show. Now, we had another topic, but how about we save that about books about comics for next time?
Sure.
Because maybe I'll locate one of them actually in all the boxes I still have downstairs from having moved. So, but anyway, next week we'll talk about books on comics. And if any of you have a suggestion for subjects for us to discuss, or anything you'd like us to review, please get in touch with us. Oh, here we go. Dan Hollifield says, should I be ashamed of enjoying the giant-sized comic of Superman versus Muhammad Ali?
You're fine, man.
Yes, enjoy the crap out of that.
Oh, yeah. And I have the original, and I bought the hardcover edition a number of years ago because I loved it.
Neil Adams' art for that, and the story is great. The iconic figures and he's one of my. Neil Adams was, when I was a kid, I would buy the comics for his covers, only to find that the interiors were not him. And be so you're fine with that, man.
Yeah, I agree. And beautiful, beautiful story. By Denny O'Neil helped write it, and the last page, the 2-page spread of Superman and Muhammad Ali, that just, to this day, I still get a little lump in my throat just looking at that thing because it is so good, and it's very intelligently written too, which is really nice. And thank you very much, Nicholas Anthony Tucker. Appreciate that praise. Great show, guys. And graphic novels versus comics, or trade paperbacks. That's
actually good.
That is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, let's. Well, I'll write that down once we're off the show, because otherwise you're just going to be like Brian's writing. Anyway, we can do better TV than that, I promise. But no, Nick, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Also, don't forget tomorrow night, for every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, Nick Tockert has the Historical Fencing Guild on YouTube. And if you ever want to learn how to kill somebody safely with bladed weapons, that's the show for you. Great show. And Cindy Kemp says, great fun had by all. Thanks for hosting Adventure. Thank you for being here, Cindy. Mwah, as always. Appreciate you, hon. And we appreciate everyone that tuned in tonight. Thank you for your great comments and questions and stuff. And here we go. Ted Davies says, another great show, you fat whore. I'm probably Ringo, but anyway, I appreciate these guys too for every week coming out here and talking comics with love. And believe it or not, despite what Eric says about that one comic, we do love comics.
The best way to tell a story, I'd say.
I agree. And when it's working right, it works beautifully. It really does. Great marriage between visuals and words. So now that everyone is thoroughly impressed with how profound we are, I'm going to go around the room and please tell everyone who you are and how they can keep track of yourselves. Let's start with Brian Rodman. Brian, tell people how to keep up with you, sir.
I'm Brian Rodman. You can go to brianrodman.com. All my social media and Patreon is there. I am, once again, the writer and illustrator of Memoirs of an Angel and The Nebulizer, coming your way soon on Kickstarter. I'm also 1/3 of The Dastardly Dingoes, a show about all things nerdy. You can find us on YouTube. And this was a great episode, Brian. Thanks once again for having me.
Oh, thank you, man, for being here, Brian. You always appreciate it. Love hearing your comments. And we also love Eric Hawkins. Please tell everyone who you are and how they can keep up on your adventures.
Oh, well, Twitter, Facebook's probably the best venue to find me. Yes_Hawkins on Twitter, and just Eric Scott Hawkins, I'm for World of Oz, Eric Hawkins, Stone Door Studios, something like that on Facebook, and you'll find me. I'm launching the 3rd issue of the Zone for World of Oz next month. I believe it is actually April 26th.
This month.
Oh, crap, it's April. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's no longer March. So
I feel better about myself all of a sudden.
Yeah, so later this month, I'll be launching on Kickstarter the Zone for World of Oz #3. I've already got like 50-something people signed up, so it's great. You can do a pre-launch page on there now with Kickstarter, so I launched that last week, and looking forward to putting another book out so I can move on to some other stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Eric, as always. And Clyde Hall, finish us out here if you would, please, my friend.
All right. Hi, I'm Clyde Hall, and you can find me on Facebook under Clyde Hall. Look for the geeky avatar, and that's chances are it'll be me because strange name, geeky avatar. You can also follow me on Facebook. I have a page that is called Radiating Positive Vibes with author Clyde Hall. And on Twitter, you can find me at CJ Hall 1984. But also, if you go to Stormgate Press, you will find information about Pulp Reality #2 coming out and my second B-Man story and all the things. They've also got, they just did a cover reveal for #2. So if you go there right now, you can see what's coming up for our next issue. Stormgate Press.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Clyde. And I am Brian K. Morris, publisher, writer, and I'm also in Pulp Reality #1. Please pick this book. It is really good. Find out why it won the 2 awards from one of the more prestigious awards in the writing industry. I am mostly on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube where you can be watching this. Please subscribe to the channel. Please, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, please give this a like or a thumbs up if you would. And please also subscribe and get those notifications, because every time you do that, you strike a blow for liberty. Captain America would be proud of you. Also, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter at risingtide.pub. I have a Patreon page that you can see at the end of the show. Also, there are advertising opportunities available. If you want to sponsor an episode of the show, please get in touch with me via Facebook Messenger, and I will send you a rate sheet. It's pretty affordable, and it helps a lot. And so does being part of our Patreon crew. Patreon is where you can, for a modest amount every month, support your favorite creators. And we want to thank everyone on this list here, including the Eric Hawkins and Brian Rodman, all these wonderful people, and Clyde Hall. No, they didn't buy their way into my affections, but by God, it did. Anyway, please check us out at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. For instance, just today, we have uploaded a PDF of one of my novels, and at the $10 level, you can get that. Also, we have a $1, $5, whatever is comfortable for you. Also, we are a part of the Rising Tide Network. Proud part of it as well. We have a plethora of shows. Yes, I learned that from a comic book. And we've got you covered for entertainment and information 7 days a week. And just to let you know right now, it started at 8 o'clock, was Creative as Hale with Amy Hale. She and John have a couple of great guest stars. Teresa Dunn, I'm blanked out for a second. Teresa Dunn and Rick Bradley. They're awesome, and their memories are far better than mine. And then at 9 p.m. is Stupid O'Clock with Joe Dog McKeel and Dan Hollifield and John and Skunk Rocker and a whole bunch of great people. Please tune in to that show. You may think it's stupid just from the name, but it's really a lot of fun, very intelligent. And then stay tuned for the Stupid After Show. Plus, tomorrow I will be back on Nevermind the Furthermore at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central Time with more creative conversation and coffee as usual. And we hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Comic Book Spectrum. We would love to have you here. So as always, folks, thank you for being here. And we're going to close out the show by saying, remember, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Comic Book Spectrum.
Stormgate Press presents a collection of 7 new short stories from today's leading authors and illustrators in the new pulp genre. Experience courageous two-fisted heroes and their intrepid and often dangerous exploits. From dark, watery depths to high-flying heights, these fantastic tales span the globe and take the reader on fast-paced adventures in classic pulp style. Take a seat as we pull back the curtain on Days Gone By with edge-of-your-seat storytelling in the vein of Golden Age era pulp fiction. This is Pulp Reality. Available now from Stormgate Press on Amazon.com.
Thank you for watching Comic Book Spectrum, a Rising Tide Broadcast Network production. Please join us next week for another look at comics, past, present, and future. If you enjoyed this, please give the show a like and be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. To receive our free monthly newsletter, go to www.risingtide.pub and be sure to give the Rising Tide Broadcast Network page on Facebook a like in order to receive news about upcoming shows including Clever Title Pending, Stupid O'Clock, Clever as Hale, Comics Chaos and Sass, Tidbits and Scribbles, the Historical Fencing Guild, and Nevermind the Furthermore. See you next week.